Street. And so, yeah, we're Hari Wo. So, it started there, and then from there we have our temple here, Shri Shri Radhakala Chanji Dham. So we owe a big debt of gratitude to Deena Bandhu Prabhu, and what he's been saying quite a bit, I've heard him say at the programs, is the revealer of the Dham, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. And so he's emphasizing to us how fortunate we are that Srila Prabhupada came and opened up the Dham to us, revealed, gave us an opportunity to become Krishna conscious. And our deities, Radhakala Chanji, were installed by Srila Prabhupada, and all of this we owe to Srila Prabhupada. And I was thinking at the same time, we owe our gratitude to Srila Prabhupada for giving us Deena Bandhu Prabhu, one of his wonderful sons, who brings Sri Vrindavan Dham around the world. So we're so very grateful, Prabhu, to have you here in Dallas. And just want to remind everybody that there will be a program tonight in Irving at Vrindapati Prabhu's house. And all of this is on our WhatsApp group, Radhakala Chanji Community, so you can find the details there. And tomorrow, Deena Bandhu Prabhu will give class at Gita Mandir in the morning at their Sunday morning program, as well as our Sunday feast program here. And then on Monday, on Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's appearance day, he'll give a class at 11 o'clock here in the temple room. And then Tuesday morning class also. So please mark your calendar, come if you can, for all of the programs. And let's take advantage of Prabhu's association while he's here. His Grace Deena Bandhu Prabhu Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. So we're very, very honored and very, very ecstatic to be here after, I guess, 11 years was the last time we were here. And of course, as Prabhuji told way back in 1970, I was just barely initiated a few months before, but they asked me to go with a devotee named Mohanananda, who had a very beautiful, bright red Sika. And his wife Shasti Dasi and Bhakta Steve, who later became Suvananda, they gave us a Volkswagen Bug, 2 boxes of BTGs, 2 boxes of spiritual sky incense, and said, go open a temple. And we drove off into the rising sun and came here. Like Prabhuji said, we were on 5108 Mission Street. So that was the first temple here. So, Hare Krishna. We're very, very ecstatic to be here at the lotus feet of, what do you call your Gaur Nitai? Nitai Gaurachandra, to be at their lotus feet, and to be the lotus feet of the most astounding deities of Radhakala Chanji, be lotus feet of Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani, to be here at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, and to be here with all the Dallas congregational devotees. It's very, very ecstatic pleasure for me. So, we didn't really study for the verse, so we're just going to give a nice class on Braj Leela. Oh, perfect. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Varadhari Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Sri Sri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Nityalila Vishnu Mr. Pad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Iskan Samsapikacharya His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Gauri Vaishnavanda Ki Sad Goswami Prabhu Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Go Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana Ki Brajabhumi Vrindavan Dham ki, Sri Sri Krishna Baldao ki, Jai Gaur Premanandi. All glories to the Samad devotees. All glories to the Samad devotees. All glories to the Samad devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to you, Srila Prabhupada. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantigam Aradhanastrinandantai Ridamya Che Puna Puna Srimad Rupa Padambujo Dulisyam Janma Janmani Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Panchakalpa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Vatidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So while I was chanting before the most beautiful deities of Sri Sri Radha Kalachandji, I realized that they're the complement of our deities in Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, doesn't matter how nicely you decorate Shyam Sundar, Radharani steals the show. And here I can see no matter how nice you decorate Radharani, Kalachandji steals the show. So they're the complement of our deities in Vrindavan. And I was remembering wonderful pastime of Srila Prabhupada, because we were discussing it here many years ago, maybe 1993 or something. I came here, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj was here, and Giriraj Maharaj was both here, and I learned something more about this pastime. Because remember that the city of Bombay were refusing to give Prabhupada a permit to build his temple. Then somehow or other he managed to get the permissions and everything. But still, that fellow Mr. Nair, he wanted to cheat Srila Prabhupada somehow or another. He cheated so many people, he'd sold this property so many times, but he'd never come up against Srila Prabhupada. So, at some point, when it was a weekend, so we couldn't go to the courts or anything, to do anything, he sent some people, some gundas to, we had a temporary temple. The construction was going, but there was a little tiny temporary temple with a little corrugated roof, tin roof, and so they began tearing down the temple. They broke down, it was just a little darshan mandap with, some iron works to hold everything up, and they were cutting that down. And just so happened my god sister, very dear god sister, Maitili, she was there, and she ran, and she's big, she ran and she stood spread eagled in front of the doors to the deity room. And they just grabbed her by the hair and pulled her across the property. Just so happened that very dear friend of Srila Prabhupada named P.L. Sethi was there, and he saw this going on, and he had big contacts. He contacted Bal Thackeray, and Bal Thackeray called up the municipality, said, if you don't stop this destruction, you're going to hear from me, and there's going to be a big problem. So immediately somehow the destruction was stopped. But now the temple was damaged and half done. So P.L. Sethi, he was a contractor. So he told, he has a very nice son. He's still alive. I meet him every time we're in Bombay. Beautiful name, Brij Mohan. His son's name was Brij Mohan. So they said, that he said to Bridge, we're going to rebuild this temple by, Monday morning, which was practically an impossible thing. And Mr. Nair's men said, you don't dare try to rebuild this temple. And P.O. Sethi looked at Braj Mohan. He said, Braj, get your revolver and I'll get my rifle and we'll see who tries to stop us. So all night long, all Saturday night, Sunday, all day and night, and Krishna, Lord Indra didn't cooperate. It was raining, but still, anyway, in the rain, somehow they were building and building. By Monday morning, the temple was there, done. And they, Mr. N went to the court, but the court said, the temple is there, what can I do? He couldn't stop the construction, it was already done. So P.L. Sethi, he was very dear to Prabhupada. So he told one story one time. He used to come to Vrindavan every year, and he would do, because he was a great devotee of Banki Bihari. So every year he would do a big pool bungalow, flower palace for Banki Bihari. Very difficult to get a chance to do that. They're booked up for months and months in advance. But every year he had a special time to do this. And so when I was president, I told him, I said, you're doing this for Banki Bihari, but this is Prabhupada's temple here. You should do something here. So then he started doing nice flower decorations for the deities and beautiful flower decorations of the Samadhi and beautiful decorations for the deities. And he used to tell so many beautiful stories. And a whole family would come. We'd have a whole section because that time with the Prasad hall was the temple room itself. We just sat in the temple room and took Prasad. So we had a whole section just for his family members. And he would tell all these wonderful stories. So he told this story, and I got the rest of the story, Giriraj Maharaj told me here. Because what happened, because he was very dear to Prabhupada. And every time Prabhupada would come, then he would come to see Prabhupada. Well, one time Prabhupada came to Bombay, and Sethiji didn't come. And they were about to leave for some very, very important meeting with some big people in Bombay. And Prabhupada asked Giriraj, where's Sethiji? He said, oh, Prabhupada, he's very sick. And so Prabhupada said, cancel the meeting. We're going to see Sethiji. So it was a very important meeting, very big people, but Prabhupada canceled it. He had so much love for P.L. Sethi. He canceled, let's go to Sethiji's house. So Sethiji lived just, in the Juhu scheme, he lived there somewhere. And so the devotees, they took Prabhupada to his house. And he saw Sethiji, he was very weak, and he was saying, because he used to call Prabhupada Guruji. He said, Guruji, I can't, I'm very, very sick. The doctors, they've given me some machine. He never told what, I assume it was a pacemaker or something. He says, no machine. He said, I can't live more than 5 minutes without it. And Prabhupada said, you take that machine and throw it from the window. And Seiji said, what? He said, no, I won't live for 5 minutes without it. He said, you take that machine and throw it through the window. He said, but Guruji, I can't live without it. He said, take that machine, throw it through the window. I will see you die. So he threw the machine out the window, and Prabhupada preached to him all our favorite verses, Dehenos Menyada He Me Komaram Jovanam Jara. What is that one? About this changing. Anyways, all the verses that we know from Bhagavad Gita, he said, why are you afraid of death? Death is born with this body, and just preached to him for an hour and a half. Very heavy preaching. And Sethiji said, when he told the story in Vrindavan, he would always start crying. He said, Prabhupada gave me life. Gave me life. He said, he would come, years after Prabhupada had left. He said, I was supposed to die in 5 minutes and Prabhupada is gone and I'm still here. Prabhupada gave me life. He would cry. And he told us a wonderful story. All right, first of all, finish this story. Because then I told this story here, and the Giriraj came and said, yes, one time Prabhupada was, because I was giving a verse the verse was, Prahlad Maharaj, that Lord Nrsimhadev appeared just to keep the word of his devotee. Because Prahlad said that Lord is in this pillar. So just to keep Prahlad's word, the verses like that. So Giriraj said, yes. Prabhupada was lecturing on this verse, and he says, yes, that time in Bombay, I had big fight with Krishna. Because Krishna said, Satyajit has to die. He said, no, I have told him that he's not going to die. And we had a big fight. But I told him, then your devotee's word will go false. So I won. So I won. So I got more piece of this story here in Dallas. This is very wonderful. But so since in those days, or even now, it's still impossible to get a renter off of your property. There's just no way. You have to pay them lakhs and lakhs of rupees, and they'll finally leave. So we couldn't get all the renters off of the properties, all these apartments. So Prabhupada decided we'll build another floor on top of all the buildings for the devotees to stay, for Prabhupada and for all the devotees to stay. So they finished Prabhupada's room first, and Prabhupada moved upstairs. And Satyajit, because he was contractor, he was doing all this work. And one day, he'd been inspecting all the work. His clothes were covered with cement, dust, and all mud, and so many things. And because every day he would, take leave, he would go see Prabhupada to take leave from the property. And he said, how can I go before Guruji like this? He said, how can I go before Guruji like this? So he started to leave. Then he said, but how can I leave without taking leave of Srila Prabhupada? So he went upstairs, and Prabhupada saw his cloth all covered with cement dust and dirt and everything. And so Prabhupada looked at him and said, Satyajit, you're building rooms for my devotees? He said, yes, Guruji. He said, I am building your room in Goloka. You are building rooms for my devotees, and I'm building your room in Goloka. And Satyajit used to cry. He used to say, I wasn't even a devotee. I don't follow your things or anything. I wasn't even a devotee. Just I was serving the devotees of Prabhupada. You people are serving Prabhupada directly, day and night. We can't imagine. Prabhupada was making my room in Goloka. We can't imagine what destination is there for you who are serving Prabhupada day and night and following all the rules. He used to cry and tell us this, you were building rooms for my devotees. I was just serving Prabhupada's devotees, and Prabhupada is building my room in Goloka. So, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. That reminds me of the time in 1974 they had the first really organized Mayapur festival. We all came from, we all went to New York, and they had a plane, practically the whole 747 was booked to devotees. And we flew to London. It was all-night flight, so we were sleeping the whole time. Then London, all the London devotees came on, and there was already some other people on the plane, but it was practically 99% devotees. So we started having kirtans, 40,000 feet in the sky. We were having Mangal Artik and Darshan Artik, and we were running up and down the aisles, jumping up and down. The poor pilot, he couldn't understand. There was no, on his weather radar, there was no turbulence, but the plane was bouncing. Then he had, then finally one of the stewardess told him, was going, all right, everyone, please return to their seats and fasten your seatbelt. Huh? Yeah. So anyway, it was very ecstatic. We went to, in those days there wasn't this London Delhi hop. We went to Paris. Then a few Paris devotees got on, and a few French who were really shocked about what was going on in this plane. Then we went to Rome, and we picked up the Italian devotees. And there was quite a layer as they let us off the plane. And so we were going through the airport, and at that time there was the Brigada Roja, the Red Brigade, So there was all these, soldiers with, submachine guns in every 5 feet, And devotees were preaching to them. I saw one devotee was writing out the Mahamantra on some soldier's hand. He's holding his gun, under his arm, and devotees writing Mahamantra on his hand. Then we went from Rome, we went to Athens. I don't think there was any Greek devotees, but some Greek people got on. Then we went to Beirut. Then we went to Bombay. And then somehow or other we landed in Calcutta. And they had buses for all of us. Everything was all organized in those days. We all went all went together like that. So so then we spent 2 weeks in Mayapur. Then it used to be the Vrindavan Mayapur festival, the Mayapur Vrindavan festival. So we spent 2 weeks there and 2 weeks in Vrindavan. So, and those were old days. We didn't have any money. So they had, they were cooking with this buffalo ghee because they couldn't afford to buy, cow ghee. The devotees were so sick. They had the devotees who were, and themselves already sick. They were helping in the kitchen, chopping vegetables and everything. It was a mess. Somehow when we got to Vrindavan, Guru Das and Jamuna, they were like our mother and father. They made nice, simple prasad. They had heard that we were sick like anything, So they made nice prasad for us and everything. And then finally we went to the airport. They had buses. They took us all to the airport. And Vishnu John came down the aisle, begging for volunteers to go to Bombay. Prabhupada wanted to make a Sankirtan protest because the police commissioner had said that our kirtan on the property was a public nuisance. You just imagine, our kirtan was a public nuisance. The municipality was refusing the permit. So, and I was very sick, and I didn't have, because we had to do the repeat of that from Delhi to Beirut, Beirut to Athens, Athens to Rome, Rome to Paris, Paris to London, London to Delhi. To New York. And Vishnu John was there, so that made it even more attractive. So I volunteered and we came here. We did this wonderful Sankirtan protest here. Oh, we came to Bombay. We did wonderful. And every day Prabhupada would go for a walk. And every day this Dr. Patel would meet Prabhupada with his friends. And he would argue Mayavadi philosophy with Prabhupada. So Prabhupada, we were all walking down, and there was Dr. Patel, and he joined us. And Prabhupada said, you see here is land, sea, and air. You can say it is all one, but still we are walking on the land, not in the sea or in the air. You can say it is all atoms. That's all right. It is all atoms. But still, we're walking on the sand, not on the sea, not on the air. And he was just arguing like that. Finally, he said, just like in the body, so many holes are there in the body. But we put the food here. We don't put it there. Prabhupada reached like that. You can say it is all one, it is all holes, but still we put the food here, this hole, we don't put here. I said, any child can understand. So your intelligence is less than a child. Every day he would, finally, Dr. Patel, he finally surrendered to Prabhupada. It was fun. Then, that reminds me of the story, 1977. Prabhupada was very, very ill. He just returned from his last trip to London. And he came to Bombay. And even though his rooms weren't done, he insisted on staying in his rooms. And it was, there was banging and everything going on. Prabhupada said, this is kirtan. They were doing, all construction was going, drills going, bang, bang, bang. But Prabhupada said, this is kirtan. They're constructing a temple for Krishna. So Prabhupada stayed there. And P.L. Sethi, he also belonged to a group called Radha Madhav Sankirtan Mandal. They're all over northern India. They all get together on one Sunday a month and they do this 12-hour kirtan from 6 in the morning to 6 at night. So they had a group in Bombay, and P.L. Sethi was a member of that group. So he suggested to Prabhupada that we do in the temporary temple. We do 12-hour kirtan. So Prabhupada said, all right. He agreed. So all the Radha Madhav Sankirtan Mandal people came and they sat in the temple room. After hours, so all the devotees left. Just the people, just the Radha Madhav Sankirtan Mandal. They could do the whole thing. So they were chanting, and they wanted to see Prabhupada, but he was too ill to come downstairs. So finally, somehow Giriraj, put his arm under Prabhupada and took him out on the balcony. And they all got darshan of Prabhupada, and they were very happy. And then he brought Prabhupada back and laid him down his bed, and Prabhupada said, you tell these people that they come here and stay in Hare Krishna land. I will give them place to stay. I will get their daughters and their sons married. They don't have to do anything except chant all day long in the temple. Because Prabhupada was so happy. He said, by their kirtan, from 6 in the morning to 6 at night. You just tell them, stay here in Hare Krishna land. They don't have to worry about anything. I will get their sons and daughters married. I will do everything. They just chant. Of course, that never happened. But anyway, Prabhupada was so pleased. Anyway, Giriraj Maharaj told us, and finally in the night, just before 6 o'clock, one lady was singing, and she was singing that old famous Braj song. Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, Radhe, Jai Radhe, Jai Sri Radhe, Jai Krishna, Jai Krishna, Krishna, Jai Krishna, Jai Sri Krishna. And Giriraj looked over, and Prabhupada was lying in his bed, and he was just, tears were streaming down his face, just hearing this kirtan. So whenever we sing this kirtan, I always remember this pastime. So wonderful. Prabhupada just tears were flowing down his face hearing this Braj kirtan. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki. So, where should we go? Gokul. No doubt at the end. What time? Yeah, we're in the class for that kirtan. All right. So, all right, we'll tell one from Barsana actually. Is in Barsana, how many people have seen the village of Chiksoli? Just on the side, because most people just go to Barsana, they climb up the stairs, get harassed by the pandas, and come down, and that's their experience of Barsana. But when we do Barsana, we do the whole Prikrama. So along the way comes a village called Chiksoli, which is Chitra Devi's place. In fact, on the other side of the hill, we're going on Prikrama, we're on one side of the hill, but on the other side of the hill, there's a beautiful temple of Chitra Devi. And this one diehard disciple of Kirtananda, Bhakti Yoga Maharaj, he's fixed it up so beautifully. And there's a wonderful Nimbarka sadhu there named Radharaman Baba. He's taking so nice care of that place, Chitra Devi's place. It's on the other side of the hill when you're doing Prikrama. But eventually, after you pass through Chiksoli, and Chiksoli is famous for butter, milk, yogurt, ghee, and all types of paneer, all types of milk products. So just as we come out of the village of Chiksoli, then there's a place there called Krishna Kund. Because one time Krishna came there with his cows, there was no water, so he took his flute and dug a kund so the cows could take some water. So it became known as Krishna Kund. Also the locals call it Radha Sarovar. And on one side there's the asan of Madhumangal. Because we just told this place is famous for all types of milk products, especially makhan, butter. So we know Krishna, he too much likes to eat butter. So one day he was going through Chiksoli with all his friends, and they were peeking through the windows of every house, trying to find one house where no gopi was at home. So they found one house, no gopi was home. They picked through the window and they saw no gopis home. So they went to the front door and came inside. Because I have been in villages, still today in India, where nobody bothers to put lock on their door. So they all just came inside, began to drink all the milk and eat all the butter and drink all the yogurt and have a grand old time like that. Because still today I have seen villages, nobody bothers to put lock. Everybody wants to go to New York. They call it the Big Apple. But first of all, everybody in New York, they live way up. When I was a kid, we used to say, "Hey, Mom, I'm going outside to play." They say, "Okay, be careful." But in New York, they say, "Mom, I'm going down." And if you go to visit your friend, first of all, you can't even get in the building. There's a whole bunch of buttons there. You push the button next to your friend's address, and the little nameplate is there. And suddenly this voice comes on, who's there? Then you identify yourself. Then you hear this horrible noise. As long as that noise is going, then you can open the door. And then you have to go, and you have to go to the 43rd floor, take the elevator, and you get to your friend's room, and you press the doorbell, and there's a little glass, suddenly that glass gets dark, and look at who's outside. And then after they realize it's you, then you can hear all the locks, chiku, 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 chiku. Everybody lives in such fear, and they want to live in New York. But anyway, I've seen villages, nobody bothers to put locks. So in Chiksoli, nobody bothered to put locks, so they all came inside and enjoying the butter and yogurt and everything. Meanwhile, that gopi came home, and she heard some sound from inside her house, and she peeked in the window. And she saw what's going on. Now, those of you who've been to India, most of you live there, so we don't have one door. We always have two doors like this. And there's a bolt on the outside, and there's a bolt on the inside. So she put the bolt on the outside. Means who's ever inside, now he can't get outside. And she ran to call all the other gopis that we caught this fellow. So Krishna, he also heard that sound. He knows the meaning of that sound. And he went out the window. So all the cowboys, they ran and they climbed up, ping, ping, ping. They all jumped out the window. Except there's one friend of Krishna named Madhumangal. Madhumangal's lame. He couldn't run like the other cowboys. He couldn't climb like the other cowboys. Another thing is Madhumangal, he may be one of Krishna's sakhas, one of Krishna's friends, but he's not a gopa, he's a Brahmin. And our Braj Brahmins, they don't tend to be very skinny fellows. Because if you want to do Brahmin Bhojan, then there has to be 10 desi ghee laddus sitting on the plate before they'll sit down. They won't sit down unless you want to speak of puri and saag and everything else. There has to be 10 desi ghee laddus there. I'm still counterfeit Brijbazi, 2 or 3 and I'm finished. So they don't tend to be very skinny fellows. So then somehow Madhumangal, he got to the other side of the room. Somehow he climbed up. He tried to go through the window, but he got stuck. So all the gopis came back. They pulled the lock. They opened. They came running inside. Ha! We got you. And nobody's there. Just this fat friend of Krishna stuck in the window. So they pulled Madhumangal out of the window. Boop. They took some flower garlands and tied his hands behind his back. Then they tied a string around his sika, and they threw it over the branch of the tree and said, "Now we got hostage." You thought this hostage taking was a new thing, huh? It's going on for at least last 5,000 years. And we have hostage and you have a demand, right? So they told him, "You call your friend here." And they pulled on that string, Oh, Kaniya! Oh, Kana! Oh, Krishna! Oh, Lala! So Krishna, he heard Madhumangal crying. So he came running to the spot. And he saw what was going on. And he became very angry. Are, what have you girls done? Don't you know? This Madhumangal, he may be one of my sakhas, but he's not a gopa. He's a Brahmin. Now you done Brahmanaparad. Now you done Brahmanaparad. All your health, your wealth, and your beauty will be finished. So, what do little girls worry about? Health, wealth, beauty. So they all became very frightened. Oh, Shamsundar, what can we do? How can we get free from this aparad? So Krishna thought for a minute. He said, actually, you go to your houses. First of all, you make an asan, nice asan for Madhumangal. And you go to your houses. You find out as many laddus as you have in your house. You bring those laddus back. You feed those laddus to Madhumangal. He'll forget all about the aparad. He will give you Ashirvad, blessing. What Ashirvad? What blessing? Mano Kamana, dearmost desire in the heart. So they made a nice asam for Madhumangal. They brought all the laddus they had in their house. They began feeding them to Madhumangal. He was eating these. He forgot all about aparad. He was giving them Ashirvad, whatever is their Mano Kamana. Of course, we know the dearmost desire in the heart of all the gopis is that somehow or other Krishna become pleased with us. And that is Krishna consciousness in a nutshell. Sankshape Rup mein. Everything we're doing is just so Krishna will become pleased with it. We're chanting Hare Krishna. We come to the temple. We take darshan of the deities. We take prasad. Why are we doing all these things? So Krishna will become pleased with us. We come to Mangalarti, at least when we're in Vrindavan, and we hear Srimad Bhagavatam. We distribute Prabhupada's books. We're doing all the things so Krishna will become pleased with. That's Krishna consciousness. Simple. We make everything very complicated. The Krishna consciousness is very simple. You just keep this formula in your brain. That whatever you do something, you think, am I doing this so that Krishna will become pleased with me? Or am I doing this so that my senses will become pleased? If you keep that formula, you're always Krishna conscious. Simple. We make everything complicated. Anyway, now Madhumangal is very happy. His belly is full of laddus. So whatever benediction you want to take from Madhumangal, you take now. Sri Madhumangal ki jai. Sri Radha Krishna ki jai. So, I can't see. What is the time? 10 more minutes. Okay. Yeah. Just that Krishna become pleased with him. As I said, that is Krishna consciousness. Whatever we're doing, we're just doing so Krishna will become pleased with it. So when you go to Krishna Kund, lots of monkeys are there, and you'll see on the far right side, there's an asan there. That's Madhumangal's asan. And from there you enter the forest on the backside of Barsana called Gebarwan. And it's a very mystical forest. If you go there in the rainy season, then the whole forest is so green. And all the trees, there's special trees there called do. Do. And you'll never see them on the plains where there's lots of water. Wherever there's water, then trees will grow. But this particular tree grows on the mountains because all the water will go down. It's very dry, but they like that. You only see them on Govardhan, on Barsana, on Nandagam. You'll see these do trees. And they have little tiny leaves shaped just like little emerald drops. And then later in the rainy season, you'll see little yellow topaz flowers coming. And then by Kartik time, you'll see little tiny ruby fruits are there, ruby seeds are there. It's a very, very mystical forest. Sometimes emerald leaves, sometimes topaz flowers, sometimes ruby fruits, ruby seeds, I guess. But if you come there in December, then you'll see it's a whole forest of gold leaf trees. All the leaves turn gold. The whole forest of gold leaf trees. And if you come in January, then they turn copper colored. It's a whole Tambupata forest, just forest of trees with copper leaves. And when devotees come at Gaur Purnima time, then there's no leaves at all. But the sun is very bright at that time of the year, and the bark of those dough trees is very light. So it looks like a whole forest of silver filigree trees. Very, very special forest. And in that forest, if you hit two rocks together, they'll go clack, 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 clack. But in that forest, if you're in the right consciousness and you find the right rock and you hit the other rock, ding, 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 just like ankle bells. Very, very special forest. From there you enter into the Gipperban forest. So anyway, we'll pause here. We'll put our voice to rest here. If anybody has any questions, we can try to answer them for you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. When you were saying like how Prabhupada was crying hearing this Braj song, I was just wondering that we always hear that we are not supposed to, get into that Braj song and things like that, and we stick to our bhajans and our Hare Krishna Mahamantra. I was just wondering how is it like?
All I know is that Prabhupada cried when he heard that song. Because it's just names of Radha and Krishna. That's what we're supposed to be singing. Radha Krishna Gunagao, we say every day.
My question is like, my personal fear is like, getting into the Sahajiya mood always.
Well, we have to be careful because some songs, just like all the local people, they chant Radhe Radhe Sham Milade. But our Gaudiya philosophy is that we don't want to meet Sham. We want to make arrangements for Radharani to meet with Krishna. This Radhe Radhe Sham Milade, this is sense gratification. That I want Radharani, we have Radharani to meet us with Krishna. But our Gaudiya philosophy. So some songs, especially I have, my songbook is from Gaudiya Mat, so there's lots of Braj songs in there that are all anukul, according to our philosophy. And that one is there.
Thank you so much.
Yes?
Thank you so much, and please forgive my interruptions on your class. Please forgive me. The question I have is, when you went to Bombay with Vishnu Jan Maharaj,
Yes.
was Mother Akuti with you also?
74, no.
No.
In 75 she was there.
Okay, you married in 75. Jai.
And
Thank you.
she got deathly sick in Mayapur. None of the facilities were completely ready. And she got deathly sick. And she wanted to go home. And I said, because that time $1,000 was a lot of money for temples in 1974, I said, we just paid $1,000 for you to come here. You're staying here even if you die here. Because if you die here, you're going back home back to God. She got well right away.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much. So nice to see you here. I'm wondering, after spending so much time in Raj, then how does it feel for you to come to the Wild West? Come back.
Well,
here?
I don't know. In the old days, we used to be afraid to go to India. My mother would always freak out. You'll get some disease there and die. You're going to die there. She was so freaked out. But nowadays, we're afraid to come to America. They'll shoot you for no reason. To me, it's like a sci-fi movie. We're sitting in this car and we just put in the address and the car drives there and changes lanes and avoids everything. It's like a sci-fi movie to me. Right now, my previous driver, Guy Govind, he flew all the way from San Francisco and rented a Tesla to come see me in Houston and then bring me here to Dallas. Huh? Yeah, well, no, he's sitting there, but he just pokes in the address. You just write Kalachandji, and all of a sudden it says, and you put in you have to put in the pin code. That's why it can't be stolen, because you have to put in the pin code for it to go. You put in the pin code, and it backs up and starts down the street and stops at stop signs, stops for red lights. It sees which lane is going faster and gets in that lane. So, and about Akuti, she went in 1975 for the opening of, because this is the 50th anniversary of Krishna Balaram Mandir, if anyone wants to come, because 6 April, Ram Navami, is the 50th anniversary. So she came for the inauguration of Krishna Balaram Mandir. And on the way back, somehow, Beirut blew up. So next year we had to go through Tehran. So Tehran, somehow they bent the nose wheel when they were pushing the airplane away from the gate, And then they had to change it, and that took hours. And Tehran was also very, critical place, so they wouldn't let us. We were stuck on a stupid plane for hours and hours. And then by the time we got to London, in those days they were smart. You couldn't land or take off before 6 in the morning or after 10 at night. So we got to London too late to take off. So the airline put us up in some fancy hotel. And then some devotees, they were smart, and I just happened to walk into that room, and they were calling the manor, and the manor said, "We'll send our Sankirtan van, you can come stay in the manor." So there was a whole bunch of us. So I went back to the room, and I told my wife, I'm going to the temple if you want to come. And she said, "I'm too tired, And then 2 minutes later, she said, after all the experiences we had in India, she wasn't going to be separated from me. So we all went to the manor, and that was, we didn't have any, we just had put our dhotis down and put, on the floor, cold floor. That was in 74, so that was the oil crisis was going on. The Arabs finally realized that the Americans were ripping them off, that they have all the oil, and these guys are taking it all to America and making big profits, so they kicked all the Americans out and took over the oil, and they couldn't afford oil for the heating in the manor. So we just put our dhoti down and then pulled it over top of us, And then in the morning, we took the coldest shower I've ever had in my Krishna consciousness. But Mukunda Maharaj was the temple president. We were old friends from Portland. So when he found out there was a whole plane full of devotees in the airport, he went down to the kitchen and ordered them to cook a feast. And so they brought, this is before all the terrorism and all that. So they brought all these big pots and pans and paper plates and everything, cups and everything, right into the airport, and they were serving out all the devotees. It was just a wonderful mood in those days, and Mukunda was so wonderful. He just immediately ordered to make a feast. We had a big feast in London, in Heathrow Airport. And then they got us back, we came back with the prasads that we all got on the plane and flew to New York. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. I saw you on a video. You were doing a parikram around Radhakund, and you were at a certain holy spot, and you sang a song. It was Krishna Kaneya Dauji Kaveya. What does that mean?
All right. That was Nityananda's Betak. That's the very last stop on Radhakund Prikrama. We come to, there's a Gopinath temple, and behind is Nityananda Prabhu's Betak. And Nityananda, he came to Braj in the mood of Dauji, because in Brij Bhasa, the older brother we call Dao. So in Braj, you'll never hear somebody say that Balaram temple is Dauji Mandir. Oh, Sri Dauji Maharaj ki jai. And little brother is Kaneya. So the song goes, Par karenge Naiya re bajo Krishna ka naiya par karenge. Naiya re bajo Krishna ka naiya. The par means to cross over. Just like if you go to Delhi, it's expanded on the other side of the Jamuna. So they call that a Jamuna Par. That's Delhi Jamuna Par on the other side. So Par means we're going to cross over this ocean of material existence. And the Naya means the boatman. And our boat is singing the names of Krishna Kanaya. So, Par karenge Naiya re bajo Krishna Kanaya. Par karenge Naiya re bajo Krishna Kanaya. Krishna Kanaya Dauji Kabaya Krishna Kanaya Dauji Kabaya Par karenge Naiya re bajo Krishna